Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwandner and welcome to Selling Power TV. Today we have the pleasure of meeting with Jonathan London, and he's the author of a wonderful book called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Selling. Welcome, Jonathan.
Oh, thanks, Gerhard. Nice being here.
What got you to write the book? You want to help entrepreneurs to be more successful?
Yeah, my whole background as a salesperson has always been kind of David versus Goliath.
You root for the little guy.
Always. Yeah, I can't help it. So, except for the Yankees, I'm a big Yankee fan. So, but yeah, my whole background in selling has been small, entrepreneurial, bleeding edge kinds of companies competing against the giants like IBM or AT&T or Wang. So I learned how to sell against these very large organizations in a way that really works. So I thought that would be a good thing to share with everybody.
By saying against, you're setting an adversarial tone.
Well, I guess sales is adversarial. It's a competition. Right?
So you have to overcome obstacles.
Well, yeah, like my first job I sold against IBM. IBM had 93% market share, 93%. It was when this thing called a typewriter existed.
Right.
And I was 22 years old out of college, clueless. Right? How do I compete against IBM?
Right.
And so what I learned how to do was how to find what I now call my sweet spot, where I had a unique advantage over IBM. So all I did from a standpoint of prospecting, going out, is go after those areas where I had what I call an unfair advantage. Because even if they loved IBM, IBM couldn't do what I could do.
Right.
So here I was, this 22-year-old kid out of college who had an advantage over IBM, the most powerful company in the world. So I've taken that philosophy wherever I've been throughout my whole career, never failed, use it in my sales training, and it works. It always works.
Which was?
Well, my typewriter could do three things theirs couldn't. It could do wide documents, so financial people loved it, spreadsheets. It could do proportional spacing, which was printing, so people who had to write books or executives. And then it had an element or a thimble where you could do architectural and engineering symbols. Otherwise, IBM could do everything we could do.
And that was Olivetti.
That was Olivetti. That's right.
Olivetti.
So I saw what I could do that they couldn't. I looked into my territory, which I teach people as their franchise.
Right.
And I said, there are a lot of either industries, verticals, or applications, horizontal, that require what I have. And if the answer was yes.
Find a sweet spot and bring it to those who really need it.
And it's scary how few people
think about that.
Sales training is a good profession because people just want to go after everything.
Right.
And they don't have a center, and they just put themselves in a position where they're competing where they don't have an advantage or where they're disadvantaged. Now, you're not going to always compete where you're in your sweet spot, but from a standpoint of your own energy, your own focus of where you want to go, you should go where you have advantage.
Right.
And that's what I teach.
I think it's an excellent strategy.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, we live in what I call a data-driven economy.
Right.
How can salespeople take advantage of the data that's available without getting overwhelmed?
Yeah, good question. Well, again, my whole philosophy is if you're focused, and I use the rule of three. So you pick three industries, three applications, as long as there's an abundance of them in your territory, right? If you do that, by definition, you're narrowing down what data you need to look at. So you know where on the web to go, what websites, what blogs, what sources of data, where to get information pushed to you. So I think if you do that properly, you then are narrowing down the kind of data and what data you need. So the data that you're looking at is relevant. So that's, I think, one way.
Right.
I think the second thing is, and I was watching the session yesterday, a lot of data. When I was thinking about it, all this data is meant to do is make you as a salesperson more credible, more knowledgeable, so you can speak the language of the industry or bring up some things. So it's really the same concept that when you sell to somebody, they want to feel comfortable with you. You have to have things that are in common. You have to have credibility. So this data allows a salesperson to have that credibility, that commonality through knowing about them or their industry or their vernacular, and then bringing that into a really good selling process and having good sales skills is, to me, the best way to use the data.
I'd like to explore this more, and tomorrow we're going to have the pleasure of continuing our conversation with Jonathan, where we talk about how he's applying this to sales training.